Welcome to BUIS 2400, Topic 1, Video B, entitled, Why Do We Need a Data Model? This video is a companion piece to Chapter 2 of Hoberman's Data Modeling Made Simple. And I'm Dr. James M. Renaud at Shawnee State University, who will be taking you through this presentation. There are really two big reasons why we need data models. And just in general, data and data models and data systems, especially at the enterprise level, are hugely complex beasts. And if we don't spend time to understand them and we just create them on the fly, they won't do what we need them to do. They'll break down, they won't collect the data, they won't give us the information. So spending the time up front doing the modeling will save us money, make our software better, make our software less buggy, make the client happier, and just it's worth every minute and every dollar spent doing it. But the first major reason why we do data modeling is we use it for communications. Because we've got all of these transactions, we've got all of this stuff flowing around. How do we communicate all of that within a group and so we all understand what's going on? There are two types of communication. There's the communication done as we create the model. Um, that way, your developers, your consultants, your systems analysis, your analysts, and everybody involved, even your stakeholders, your customers, your end users, should have some idea of the data model so that we all can understand what it is. We can give everything a good name. Now, this data model might create debate between, well, I want to call to this and I want to call to that. I want to call it this, I want to call it that. I want to store it this way, I want to store it that way. But by modeling it both ways and then saying, how do we get the information that we know about? How do we get the information that we may ask someday in the future? Which of those two structures are better is a very common reason during modeling why we do these data models. So we do this to foster the communication during modeling, but we also do this to communicate after the modeling is finished. Once our data people, once our analysts, once everybody's gotten together and we've created a data model and we're all happy with it, we're all groovy with the whole data model thing. What do we need the data model for? Well, we need it to communicate to the developers and the users so that we can show them what we've actually done. Yeah, a data model would be used by someone in finance who has to come back in months or years later and generate reports. It could be used by software developers who are looking to increase the system or add something to the system or need to generate new reports from the system so they can look at the data model. They can spend time with this chart and they understand exactly where the relationships are and exactly what is what and what it's named and where it is. So we use it to see what has happened. I have here in green an old expression: a picture's worth 1,000 words. A data model is priceless if it's done right, if it's coherent, if you spent the time to do it right, and your developers follow it. Then the data model is priceless because of the communication that you'll get from it. A data model also was created or is created because it gives us precision. It gives us a clear and unambiguous way of understanding the data. And two designers, two developers, two consultants, a consultant, an employee, all kinds of people are going to be looking at that data model. And if we've done it right and it's precise and clear, there will be no ambiguities in it. There'll only be one way to read it. The relationship will be clear. The name of the attributes will be clear. The types of data will be clear. Everything will be clear. Now, that doesn't mean it's right. It just means it's clear because we could have modeled it incorrectly, couldn't we have? But at least if we've modeled it incorrectly, we will all see the incorrect the same way. Are we going to fix it? sometimes it might even be too late. If we've already done a lot of development on a model that's flawed, we may leave the flaw in the model but there you go. That's another reason why we want the model to exactly match what we're developing and what we develop to match the model, so that if there's a weird quirk in it, if there's a peculiarity in it, if there's not ambiguity, but if there's just something a little weird, non-standard, or just if it's in the model and it's clear and precise and unambiguous that it's there, then developers, even years later, can come in and go, "Oh, I don't know why they did that, but oh well, I can use it." Okay, so remember the model might be incorrect, but we need to all see the same thing when we look at the model. Things that are not precise in a model are weak definitions, where we say, well, it's something like this. No, what is it? Where we put dummy data. Instead of saying this is the student ID number, we put in 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. If we have a field where we're going to put in a date, we need to say month, day, year. It's this date. It's the transaction date. It's the drop date. It's the date of the grade. It's whatever that date is. We need to define what that attribute is and what it looks like. We don't put a date in there. We don't put in July 15 of 2020. We just put that it is a date and define what type of date it is. And if we have vague or missing labels, if we have a relationship that's kind of vague and we don't really know what is that in there for, if there's a case, if there's something that's not very clear and very unambiguous, if there's, something that is ambiguous, double negative isn't something that you're not supposed to do. So, but if there's something that's not right or something that's could be questioned, put a label on it, put a description on it, so that there's a label, so that everybody knows exactly what we want. So, weak definitions, vague or missing labels, or dummy data make it less than precise. So, think about a map. Think about as we're doing this data model. So we've talked about why we model. What are the uses of our data model? What uses do data models have? Well, data models are used by people who are maintaining an existing piece of software to understand the existing system. I was working as a consultant many years ago for a large grocery store chain up in New York State, and the data model for their production database was little tiny boxes and covered almost a whole wall. It was divided into sections so that I could see that purchasing was here and the inventory was here, but they were all connected somehow because a part is a part and a part flows through all of them. And it let me, when I started as a consultant, when I started as a contractor, to sit down and look at that diagram and understand the relationships between things. It let me understand what was there, their existing applications, and it let me put my code in a context that fit with their code. A good data model will let us perform impact analysis, will let us kind of look at, well, if we change this, what's it going to change? Well, if we change you'll learn about primary key, but if we change the key to this table, how does that affect, oh gosh, that affects all of these other tables. There's relations. Oh my goodness, that's crazy. We can't do that. Or maybe you'll look at something and go, I want to add this. And it's like, okay, it's not going to affect anything. Um, it'll help us again understand a business's area and how business works, as I described, and it educates team members. Boy, I said that all in the first one also. Um, it's literally a go-to reference for report writers, for analysts, for programmers, for software maintenance people, for anybody, finance people who are trying to generate reports and intelligence, business intelligence from the database, from the data systems that we've created. A data model is it's the document and it's always current or should always be current to any changes that are made to the database. This concludes video B for Chapter 1. I'm James Imrano, and I'd like to thank you for watching. Remember that this presentation was copyright 2020 by James Imrano, PhD. All rights are reserved, and I'd like to say thanks again for watching.